Next up, I have something I don't read nearly enough of, I don't think, which is a play. Um, Probably the best known play by this playwright. The playwright is August Wilson, and the play is called Fences. This was published in 1983, and it's actually the sixth play of August Wilson's Pittsburgh cycle, and by far the best known. He actually won a Pulitzer Prize in drama for it in 1987. All the plays in the cycle take various aspects of African American experience during the first part of the 20th century and somehow look at them through different lenses. Fences, as the name subtly hints at, looks at the differing ways of life and cultural assumptions that Americans, both black and white, of two different generations have toward one another as they find themselves growing further and further apart. The action in this play revolves around Troy Maxon, who is the dictatorial, autocratic patriarch figure who rules over the play with a kind of brooding, constant, suffocating presence. Everyone slavishly concedes to his authoritarian, overbearing personality. His wife, Rose, his best friend, Bono, and his two grown children, Lyons and Corey. Troy, who is a garbage man, was once an aspiring baseball player when he was younger, but he was unable to break into the game because of the color barrier. When his son shows similar athletic promise, he shuts down any opportunity for him to pursue it, demanding that he get a job at the local store instead. Whether it's out of spite or not is unclear, but his negation of his son's dreams comes across as understandably kind of mean-spirited and petty. At another point, his son Corey asks his father, "How come you ain't never liked me?" To which Troy responds, "Liked you? Who the hell said I gotta like you?" So, yeah, he kind of comes across as a hard-hearted guy. But obviously, you still kind of feel sympathy for him because of his past, and his parents probably treated him in much the way he's treating his kids, and you get the idea that this is a generational, cyclical sort of thing going on. A lot of the play revolves around the way Troy exerts his power over his wife and children. His son Lyons occasionally asks him for money, which always makes Troy bristle with resentment and sends him into a seething tirade about how Lyons shouldn't feel entitled and should stop coming by just to borrow money. Troy has an affair with a woman named Alberta, who we never actually get to see in the play, and he conceives a child with her, Raynell, whom we only see in the last scene at Troy's funeral. The title refers to the fence, I guess, that Troy and his son try to build, or do build, throughout the play, yet Troy always seems to be castigating him for doing something else. And when I say fence, I don't mean a metaphorical fence between the two of them, personality-wise. I mean, they are actually building a physical fence around their house. But obviously, fences has reverberations that are beyond just the literal ones because of the personalities involved. Troy has an extreme aversion toward death and loss. The fence is, I guess, there to kind of militate against death and to, as Robert Frost said, fences make good neighbors, sort of keep things away. The fence has another much more allegorical, metaphorical meaning. Obviously, it stands for the wall that separates black Americans raised in the 30s and 40s from their children who were raised in the 60s, with all the social and cultural and political baggage that comes along with that huge chasm, that huge divide. At the end of the play, Wilson has certainly made a hell of a character out of Troy. a character who I think begs for readers' sympathy. But as great of a playwright as he is, he just couldn't bring me to really, really love him as a person. I could never see Troy as anything other than kind of a despot, even though sometimes you can kind of understand the way he is, but I guess that's not the fullest kind of sympathy. I felt sorry for his children and wondered why his wife suffered his presence. I tried to find virtues in him, but the fact that he's such a hard-drinking Lothario really didn't help his case any, or doesn't really endear him to the reader. Troy does kind of remind me of my own father, who I had similarly difficult relations with, and who I still have trouble being around without being a little bristled myself. So much of what he said in the play, his motivations, his attitudes, are exactly like those of mine. I know it's precisely this sort of fearful symmetry which caused such a visceral reaction toward the play that I had. But as much as I dislike Troy, the play itself is superb. To capture the psychology of a man like Troy is to have known several people like him, which I would imagine August Wilson certainly did, and to know several people like his long-suffering wife and children, and that really takes a superb craftsman and a superb dramatist, which Wilson definitely is, and this definitely was worthy of a Pulitzer Prize, in my opinion. August Wilson, Fences.